Thank you everyone to the Jamaica Selectboard regular meeting on Monday, August 28th, 2023. The agenda's missing a comma, I apologize, at 7 p.m. So first I will call for any late additions to the agenda. I don't think so. Okay, terrific. First is to approve two sets of minutes. First is from the July 14th regular meeting and the August 7th special meeting, which was to approve the new tax rate.
We should do them separately.
Were they August?
Yeah.
Well, they're both, yeah, it's August 14th. I apologize, everyone. It's been a little bit of an interesting time. But I will correct that. The minutes say August.
It's also hard to believe
August is over. Yeah, exactly. Do I have a second? Oh, wait, no. First, I move to approve the minutes of the August 14th regular meeting and August 7th special meeting. Any second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay. With no discussion, I will take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor. The next is a bit of a meaty topic, and we've got a few people who are attending who can talk to these items. Mike, did you want to go over kind of where we stand with FEMA in terms of the exploratory call and then the scoping call? Yeah, I can do it.
I would.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So, just as a quick update in terms of the status with FEMA, we have now been appointed at the town's individual representative from the FEMA organization. He reached out, he gave us information, we gave him information, after which we held an exploratory call. It was extremely helpful. While this town has a lot of experience with FEMA and mainly in Paul, who was, were you chair of the select board at the time? And
part of it.
Yeah, for part of it, right, exactly. FEMA has updated and evolved its processes, so this was important for us, and it was extremely helpful. It is the precursor to the next meeting, which I think is it in person? He's coming to the scoping meeting. I forget if he's coming or not.
I don't know.
The one on the 8th.
I think
He is coming in person. So between now and then, we take all of the data that we've been collecting about the over 30 projects, municipal projects that are underway, against which there has been third-party spend as well as non-third-party spend, so road crew. And we are compiling it in the format and including all the types of information that FEMA requires. In that regard, Mike Tuller identified an excellent source in the form of the individual who's doing this work for the town of Londonderry right now and who has made himself available to us as a consultant, and he's given us models. He also gave us a preview before the first FEMA call, which allowed us to be prepared for the first call, ask the right questions, etc. And he is going to help the team, which is a lot of folks here, Mike, Greg, Keith, Sarah, and others who are compiling a really extraordinary amount of information for purposes of providing to FEMA. We have one positive the main positive takeaway from my perspective, or I think from a general perspective, is that we've always been concerned about the length of time it takes for FEMA funds to come in. I know that Paul can attest to this. It really was a multi-year process to get that money, and it's a burden on the town to carry that cash flow burden. So if we come in under $1 million for our total remediation spend, FEMA is now, has passed or implemented an expedited process. So projects of a certain size combined with a total spend of under $1 million makes us potentially eligible for more expedited recovery. Of course, nobody says exactly how much time that takes. In addition, FEMA will, in that circumstance, approve projects where we have estimates and we have not spent all of the, actually paid all of the invoices, received all final invoices. They will actually, in certain circumstances, give us that money up front, which will be huge for the town of Jamaica. So that's a positive thing that came out. Anything you would add to that, just in terms of that initial meeting? Your notes will probably, yeah.
I mean, Bill Kearns was favorable in what we put together for the meeting and how we positioned ourselves in the town.
Right. He was happy with the outcome, right?
Good step.
Good, excellent.
Do we think it's too early to ask, are we below $1 million? I saw what you sent this morning, but that, just a fraction probably.
Right. It's, so here's the, and I'm gonna give my take and then you two give your take. So there's some big ticket items, right? So there's some box culverts that we're looking at. Very expensive. Those are the multi-$100,000 projects. And we've got river work. Very expensive. In addition to other not inexpensive projects, but sort of more bite-sized projects that we're still completing. So in my mind, the wild card are those bigger ticket items and how many of them we want to undertake. So I think
just at a broad brush, I would exactly say the same thing. I mean, there's a couple of big things that are unknown at this point, but I mean, right now, all these the known knowns are under $1 million.
Right.
But if we undertake and get approval to get after some of these bigger projects, which are necessary, it could push that number, I think.
The known unknowns, right?
The known unknowns, right.
Those, we had crushed culverts during Irene that we took out, and they looked at them and said they weren't banged up enough. But then didn't they want us to put box culverts in or replace them at like $300,000 long,
Yeah,
or a piece,
funding.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that will add up. But if it doesn't, that's great news, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
There's a significant amount of work that needs to be done in the channel, down by the village.
Right.
That's really, I think, one of the bigger costs. And the question is that bundled in with all of our other damages here in town, or is that a separate, initiative, but looking at the watershed?
Right. Can we find a different source of money for that and not have to burden our FEMA reimbursement efforts? Okay, so I wanted to do a shout out to, and actually Sarah, I meant to send that to you this morning. We'll take care of it on Wednesday. So there's other, with respect to individuals who have lost sole source driveways / bridges in the storm. FEMA has up to, I want to say $41,000 a household, right? It was that. So we want to push that out. I want to say that please to the camera. I know offhand, a handful of people who had to essentially reconnect themselves with culverts / new driveway / bridges. And this is brand new, hot off the presses. FEMA is actually making an additional source of funding. Hopefully, if you're in that position, you've already registered for FEMA recovery, in which case, if you've had someone come out and visit, they were aware of this, but if they were not, this is a lot of self-help. Please come to any of us. We can give you that information, or ask the person who came to examine your property.
Now, is that for the whole loss or just for the entries?
Just for the driveway.
That's
Just
what
for
I
the,
thought. I saw that on the news, and
yeah.
I know you guys know the dates better. Did they extend the deadline to September 8th if you haven't filed anything in Vermont?
Yeah, that came over the transom today, didn't it? There's been an extension.
I didn't see that extension.
I
Okay,
think they just did it.
I
Or
haven't
they,
seen it in-
or
I
they
haven't gone
just
so much
mentioned it
up to
again.
today.
right. There has been an extension.
not a very long one, but
Right, but it was like a 2 or 3 week
Couple weeks,
extension.
yeah.
That's another thing, Sarah,
That's-
we'll do on Wednesday.
that's coming
I'll
up.
Put that up, okay?
September, if I got the date right,
Yeah,
the 8th.
I think you might be right. Next I'm gonna talk about potential funding. So we've talked about these big numbers, and again, looking at Paul, he'll be familiar with this. So these are numbers that towns like Jamaica we don't have this in our bank. It's not like we can just dig in and pull out the credit card and, pay $750,000 worth of unanticipated expenses. So we are looking at, in the short term, a line of credit that would be issued by M&T Bank, who is our municipal commercial bank right now. It's their municipal organization. They are doing this with a bunch of towns. And these are lines of credit in anticipation of taxation. So they are relatively short term. They're 364 days. They can be converted, but the pricing is not great. It's not for bond bank type pricing. But it's one of these things where you have to balance, right? You have to pay a fee to get the line of credit set up. You're paying an effective interest rate, which is around 6%. It's a margin over the federal rate, which totals about 6%. That is a commercial rate. It's, maybe slightly lower than a commercial rate for what is essentially an unsecured loan, but it's not a 0.25%, which is, really where we would want to be. We are going to have to go through underwriting and get approval for a line of credit. Most likely set it up, so we will have to pay the initial fee, and I'll come back to the board with an update on that. Sarah and I will. And we will draw down what we need to draw down. Hopefully, with the group that we have, the amount of information we have, and, the connection we're creating with FEMA, and the possibility of, receiving FEMA funds even against, proposals rather than invoices, and not having to sit on invoices for a long time. We won't have to draw down the entire facility, we won't have to keep it out there for 364 days. But in the event that we do, in advance of the next town meeting, we would structure a Vermont Bond Bank facility. We have one outstanding now. Anybody can see it going on to the Vermont Bond Bank website. Gives you all the detail. That was one you probably remember, Paul, from 2016. And the amortization schedule is in detail there. And that's a very, again, that's a slightly different facility, so I can't say, oh, it's a 0.5%. It's more of a, it has an interesting structure, which I need to teach myself a little bit better. Sarah and I can try to parse through that. But in any event, in discussions with Vermont Bond Bank, they made it clear that there's actually other governmental funding that they are planning to leverage and design a unique facility for municipalities between now and, town meeting time, so that they've got something real to offer that is very low interest. Like, we're talking in the quarter, 25 to 50 basis points, which would be phenomenal. So that's another, bit of good news. The banker there said unequivocally it's gonna come. Exactly what it's gonna look like, I don't know, and exactly when, but you, Jamaica, are now on our list, and he's gonna keep us informed. And so at least that looks like the lay of the land for now, a line of credit, which we're gonna have to take out, but hopefully take it out with a combination of early payouts from FEMA and wherever we need to be with the Vermont Bond Bank in advance of the next town meeting. So I know that's a lot coming out at once, so if anybody wants to ask questions on that.
What's the last bond for the town garage?
2016, was that the garage?
I want to think it was the garage.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
What about monies from Irene? Are we paying that back still? Where'd that money come from?
We finished that.
We paid all that back?
We got most, yeah, because they were like 5 million. And so we had the bond, I scratched that, we had the line of credit. And I believe that was paid off, but I don't remember when. But we did, a lot of the Irene stuff came later and later, but I think
Right.
a couple of years ago, maybe.
It's
a
all,
few years
all
ago.
done, yeah.
all
It's
done.
off the budget
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
so I know it's,
Well,
yeah.
what was the auditors asking? What is that money? Remember they saying?
We borrowed some from ourselves.
That was
Pay that
for something
back,
else.
worker?
Was that for FEMA?
I don't think it was.
No, that wasn't
Oh,
for
I thought it
FEMA.
was. I'm not.
No.
I
We took a loan against our own assets.
don't-
That
Okay.
was for the garage meeting.
Maybe that was for, I don't know.
I don't recall the specifics, so there's so many things going on at once.
Right.
During those years.
Right.
We took a bond for the town
For the
garage.
garage.
I believe we
And
did.
that's, yeah.
Okay.
That's my
The
understanding.
loan that you're referring to, the town we pay ourselves interest.
Right.
So that's why it strikes me as sort of odd to pay that down. You know what I mean? It's,
But the auditors
That's
are asking
nothing.
us.
they do, and you know what?
Yeah.
Let's ask
it's-
it again,
it's
let's
our-
discuss it with the
No,
auditor.
they just, in case we needed to borrow money again, what, did they look at that? That we borrowed that
So
from
when
ourselves?
they look at, it's like,
Okay,
it's part of
that's
the
what it
balance
is.
sheet. It's part of
Okay.
your balance sheet,
Right.
but M&T is already familiar with our audited, our balance sheet generally.
Right.
We need to, Sarah is working on, the unaudited financial statement for this past fiscal year. And with that, we'll get our approval. It's a question, of course, once it goes into underwriting and they make the sausage, how much, the line of credit is that they'll grant to us. So that's an open question, but, we're reasonably comfortable it's what we're gonna need to cover our layouts in advance of receiving money from FEMA, so.
And monies did come in. I can't remember when they started, but I know
they
for
were-
Irene.
Yeah, dribs and drabs. It came.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it started coming in pretty quickly. But
After
it
3
took
years.
several years to get that thing flowing.
Right.
Maybe.
And you were correct with the line of credit because that's how you pay people, your own people, but also people who are small contractors.
Right.
In lieu of saying, well, just hold on till FEMA.
Wait
you
for
get-
it.
they get- Yeah, so that's the correct, do the correct path.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that update? Okay. So then I have an other on FEMA. Anything other on FEMA? Looking to the others?
Are they still at the firehouse or what is that up there? Or
Oh, that's a disaster recovery center. So that's for individuals.
outside of FEMA's gone, right? From Jamaica.
Oh, did they close?
That's
Did
what
they
I'm
close?
asking.
I don't think so.
I thought the flag was still up. Anybody
No,
can go.
they closed.
Oh, it did close?
Oh.
Oh,
Moved
that's,
towards Borough.
that's Greg. Oh, they moved towards Borough. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then I'll just take this opportunity to add to my point little two. So we received notice as a select board today of a townsperson who had experienced a lot of damage to their property in a location which was not, adjacent to a river or a washed out road, etc. I personally wasn't knowledgeable. I think the folks here were not. And that made me a little scared because we do have deadlines coming up. And so this is another shout out, not just for people who had damage to a sole source access driveway or bridge, but just generally, if you've suffered severe damage as a result of the storm and you've not either come to the town, potentially to be sponsored for NRCS funds or other similar funds, please do. Now is the time. Do not wait. You might have private causes of action, but it's you pursue every avenue at the same time.
And we don't know what
Right.
happened on
Every
every acre of land in
Right,
Jamaica.
right.
Not being crass or anything, but, you know, everywhere it took a hit
Right.
to some extent.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And there are some people who we knew about the damage and they still said, no, we don't want, we're not going that route. As we know, there's lots of Vermonters who just, don't do that. But if we don't know, we don't know. So yes,
And
thank you.
my experience on the board during this is, I don't know what the rest of the board did, but we didn't go down a list of businesses and ask them did you have any damage? I mean, or picked specific businesses and called them up and asked them, is that something that we do, or, do we?
Not as per
Unless we
standard, I
know
guess.
a
I mean,
road.
we obviously, I think, are connected to a lot of people, but we certainly
Right.
aren't connected to
But we
everybody.
don't,
Right,
Yeah, So there are-
not that we don't care, but we don't,
correct.
unless there's an adjacent road or a river,
yeah, there's certainly places that may have been
I
missed,
wouldn't know.
individuals, businesses.
I wouldn't know who to call.
Come
unless
Right, right,
They have a road complaint or
right.
a water, a bridge, or,
Or
Yeah,
they
water
made a
damage.
911 call or, right,
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 so,
Yeah,
right.
just by nature of how many
Right.
parcels and homeowners and businesses are there in town, it's
okay.
Right.
almost
That's
impossible for
a-
5 people to
So
respond.
Response to that email.
Right, so again, our emails are public, please write, call, leave a message, what have you. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to 4, and we had a visit last week from representatives of NRCS, the Regional Floodplain Manager, and can I hand that over to you, Mike, and Greg, is that okay? Since I wasn't there.
Mostly Mike, I guess, because I,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
some of the stuff too.
Yes.
Last Thursday, we did have.
Not you, Greg, the other
Oh,
Greg.
the other, sorry.
We're gonna have to be
Keep
Greg
forgetting,
M and Greg L,
It's two
or
Gregs and I
something.
keep forgetting.
We did have 2 representatives from USDA, NRCS visit us last Thursday. One was out of Burlington, Michael LaPointe, and the other was Les Wright out of the Rutland office. They both were driving around with the gentleman with Greg Lakis looking at flood damage, more specifically in the waterway and along the stream banks to see what damage and what can be done. NRCS, USDA are looking for cost-effective means to remedy these problems. If the cost to remedy it is beyond the cost of the value of the property, they may be proposing an acquisition or a buyout. But they've gone around and looked at properties, as did John Broker Campbell with A&R's environmental division, who is our floodplain manager for our region. And John as well noted quite a few of the properties were at a point where they would either be full acquisitions or they would have to be a cost-sharing program. It's usually a 75-25 share. But the cost to build structures in the river is expensive. There's a permitting process that also has to be entertained. So it's not an easy fix, but it is available to property owners if they want to exercise that. And as Jessica had indicated, if you haven't recognized any problems yet or would like those recognized, please reach out to me or Sarah in our office, and we'll come out and at least do some initial reviews and see what options you might have. But the folks for NRCS will be coming back. We will invite them. John Broker Campbell will be coming back. We're trying to fit this in the schedule in the next week or so, and I'll be letting folks know about that.
Are those properties all properties that people ask for help with, or you just anyone?
Yes,
okay.
they've reached out to my office, either through Sarah or myself, saying that they've been impacted by the storm. A lot of it's erosion, stream bank, degradation. So they'd have to bring those stream banks back, and it's pretty costly to do that. You have to bring in the river engineer. There's berms and materials that needs to be redistributed or removed. So it's not an easy undertaking, and it involves civil engineers.
And in order to even be eligible, the town actually has to submit, in essence, a supporting
Correct. We
a
have
letter where we're asking, saying that we as a town will participate in the solution. You know, we have, how many now, 9 or 10? 9?
Well, I think it's adding up, but there's at least 9 properties that have been impacted, several of them in the village near this,
Right,
where the bridge is.
yes, or just north of the bridge. Paul?
Or just-
If I could just throw out a comment, essentially I'm talking now to the rest of the community. People who went through Irene, who had individual damages, that for whatever reason FEMA wasn't able to, because of the laws or the regulations, to provide a whole lot of help with. I've been talking to some of the FEMA people over the last couple of weeks, and things are a lot different this time. There are a lot more opportunities to get help individually. They're being a whole lot more supportive, and a lot of the things that we learned during Irene, they fixed in a lot of respect. There's still problems, but for the most part they did. So those of you who are relying on what you learned from Irene, I recommend that you connect again. I'm not promising anything, but FEMA it's matured, let's say, in the last 13 years, and there's a lot of options that weren't there before. So I would encourage anybody who thinks they know what happened based on Irene, start over again and give FEMA another shot.
That is an excellent point. Really beautifully made and so important. I do wonder if there aren't folks out there who really expect the worst outcome, and even as this is rolling out, FEMA is adding programs. So even if at the, your first meeting with the FEMA rep didn't go quite as you had hoped, let's examine the new programs that are coming out, and there may be something that's evolved even since you first reached out in early July. But certainly, to Paul's point, don't rely on your experience from Irene. Thank you, Paul, for the point. That was so important. Any other comments on 4?
Well, one other thing, DEC did say that typically they fund improvements related to the watersheds or the flood hazard areas being impacted, but they have a separate program for those properties outside of these flood hazard areas where they may be eligible for funding too. So as Paul said, pose the question and let us tell you
Right.
that, hopefully this might help.
Let's at least explore it.
That's right.
Right,
Please.
right. Great, thank you. All right, with that, I'm gonna go to Jamaica Old Home Day, the update, and we're gonna have a discussion about
One thing, and I don't know.
Please, I'm sorry.
We had talked about the South Hill and as combining.
the RFP. You know
one
what?
of these things.
That's actually under 3, but that's fine.
Right,
We're still
exactly.
within
Just
that.
realizing it.
Yes. Do you want to make
I
a
can-
resolution
yeah,
and then we
yeah.
can discuss? Great.
So, building off of last meeting and the number of people that were concerned about where we were headed with the project work on South Hill, the update was that we were gonna do the work this fall. But going back through some of, maybe this is just more for
The minutes.
bookkeeping, not bookkeeping, but more
Record
administrative side of
keeping.
things. But we had actually put off accepting the bid from Fuller Paving because of the uncertainty of timing and funding and things like that. So I wanted to get that back on the table because we are going to move forward with it, and just formally, I'd like to make the motion that we accept the bid from Fuller Paving in the amount of $179,450 for the resurfacing of South Hill. So it's the last 0.8 of a mile.
I'm going to second that and then make a slight modification.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, as part of discussion, Fuller very graciously, which we announced at the last meeting, graciously agreed to put off close to 50% of the cost until 2024, so that they're happy to do the work this fall, and they're going to carry, mainly because, as I understand it from Keith, they fabricate their own material. So they're willing to, take probably some of their profit as their carrying cost of
They
that
don't have that
inventory.
out-of-pocket
They don't have that
material.
inventory available.
Yeah.
They're gonna give it to us, so
What, like asphalt or something?
Yes.
Asphalt, yeah, they don't
Yes.
have to buy the asphalt to
Right.
then put it
they
down.
create it
They create it
themselves.
so they can,
Yes,
they can absorb
Yes.
that a little bit.
yes.
more easily.
So my suggestion is to modify the resolution to say we approve the bid with that modification that was communicated to Keith Hazard.
So you want me to, should I restate it?
Yes, please.
That is
So
happening.
we have to rescind this motion then,
Oh, do we?
and then make a new motion. I think
I'm
that,
getting rusty, I'm doing too much real work. So I'll make a
So-
motion to rescind Greg's initial motion, approving the bid as is.
I think that's how it works.
And do I
And
have a
I'll make
second for that?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor of rescinding? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I think
so,
that's how it works.
yes, Greg, if you would be so kind
More
as
or
to make a new
less,
motion.
so I'd like to modify the motion here. I'd like to motion that we accept the bid of Fuller Paving for the bid amount of $179,450 with the knowledge that we will be invoiced 50% of that now and 50% in fiscal year '25. So is
Yeah.
that how late it will go?
Well, no, it's gonna be in 2024,
So in the calendar
in
year.
the calendar year
2024.
2024,
So in the calendar year 2024.
I'll second that.
okay? Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, great, thank you, Greg.
Now we just, now we can
go to Jamaica Old Home
good.
Day.
Yeah, exactly,
All
sorry.
All right, so Karen, you wanna give us a quick update and then the,
Sure. We're making great progress. We have a great team working on Jamaica Old Home Day. We were a little disappointed in not having a parade. We're not having a parade this year. We have to go through, in years past, we just had the sheriff on either end of town. V-Trans does not really want us to be closing down the road. We have to fill out a permit, and the permit requires us to hire a flagging company to come up with a plan. We could not find the flagging company because they're also busy with construction. One out of Fellows Falls contacted us back and said that we were so good to the flaggers during Irene and the work done afterward, giving them free food and water and things when we were in a disaster, that he said, we'll make it work. But the cost of doing this is well over $1,000 just for flaggers. And so we said, forget it. But we have lots of other plans. I wish I had brought my papers. Rob and Erica Bowman, Rob Willis, have the escape room up in Bonneville, and they're doing sort of an escape into Jamaica, where you go around with clues and riddles trying to escape into Jamaica. So that'll be fun. And that will be free that day, but it will be available at a cost. This is something that they do in Stratton and Manchester also. And people can do it afterward. We have a ceremony to thank people for the flood. The Corps of Engineers are going to be here. We've asked you, Jessica, to speak, and Mike and Paul are speaking, and the Corps is speaking. Anyway, we would just like to thank everyone for getting us through this and doing such a great job. And we have food. Jim Barbecue will be here. We'll have burgers and hot dogs. We'll have the Pizza Burro coming. And we're wondering if we can close off the upper part of Depot Street. We had asked before to close off in front of the church, which we've done in the past. But now we're asking to close off from Route 30 to the library, to the other end of the library. And that way we were going to have touch-a trucks So some of our rescue vehicles, our fire department would be there, kids could get on there and, you know, see the trucks and everything. And it would be a good place to.
Even the grown-ups like to look at them.
Well, the grown-ups can get in and press the siren button and, you know, if they want. So we're asking if we can do that. It's 11 to 5 that day. And rescue will be here with a bunch of their equipment, showing us what to do. The Corps of Engineers will be here with a booth also, so they can talk to people throughout the day about the dam and any questions
Which is
that they have.
fantastic.
Right, it is.
Fantastic.
So they're excited.
That was a big win, so thank you.
Yeah.
So in terms of notifying the folks on the other side of the library between Depot Bridge and library, they'll be notified of the
They
closure?
will be notified, although they can still get out. And
Right, just
go
on
down.
Water Street.
Right.
And the state park.
And the state
Let
park,
them
yes.
know because
Yeah,
of access to.
That's their turn there, but there would have been one side open.
Right, it's still open,
Yeah.
but it just so they're aware. Yeah.
Right.
So,
We've practiced.
so what about EMS fire trucks can get by Tolbert's where the road's half caved in? We don't need to ask fire department or anything in case.
It's the fire department actually that's putting the
Someone
trucks
that
there.
needs to
Right.
get, they can just shoot down from there across the Depot Street Bridge.
Right.
Let's double check, but it was actually the fire department that came up with the plan to put the
Yes, it
trucks
is.
there. So they know what's gonna be blocked off.
I've been talking to Adjourn,
Yeah.
and
And actually Greg is on, I don't know if Greg was involved.
Oh, right.
in it. Greg.
Well, if they're doing it, then I'm not
it
asking them.
should be fine.
I asked, I'll just add to, Karen asked me to get in touch with the sheriff's department. They're willing to, or going to provide 2 sheriffs for that time slot. They were willing to, you know, do the front and the back of the parade, and I mentioned permits, and they nipped that in the bud. They said they didn't know anything about that, but they'll be here. I don't know if it'll be part of our contract or a little extra, but they're coming
Yeah.
for the day.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I think I'll make a resolution just so that we're, you know, all buttoned up. So I resolve that on Jamaica Old Home Day, we will be closing Depot Street, both branches around the Memorial Triangle, to just past the Memorial Library, for activities that will be taking place there from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. All those, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
And Claire, the Robinsons will be able to get out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have to vote yes because it won't carry. Would it?
No, it would not, it would not. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Right, unanimous, thank you.
And just as a reminder, the date, I don't know if it's.
Saturday, September 16th.
Yeah, just right.
Thank you. Saturday, September 16th,
I don't know if we said that today yet.
11 to 5.
We're also going to be talking a little bit about our pumper. So our original fire truck is at the fire station, and the firehouse doesn't really have room for it in there any longer. We also are fortunate enough in town to have our original fire station, which is next to the church, which is where our pumper was housed years ago at. Isn't that crazy?
I don't even remember that.
No, that was
Before our time.
1800s.
Oh, I was like, what? Well, I'm pretty old, Karen, but still.
Well, not that old.
I remember gas pumps in front of Muzzy's, but yeah. It was before that.
So anyway, we'll be talking about that. The fire department, the historical foundation, and the Jamaica Community Church have been working together to figure out how to do this. And the church has said, yes, the pumper can be housed in there, which is great, but now we need to raise some money to make it so people can walk up to there and look inside and see information on it and things like that. But it'll be pretty cool.
Will there be a separate fundraiser?
Yes.
Okay, so more to come on that?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll have a walking tour of the village. We have well over 100 structures and buildings that were here or are here or have changed. And there'll be little signs out in front of each building Andy, in front of your house, if you don't mind.
I have a sign,
One of the old signs.
I think it's in the cellar,
Okay.
that our house was the first hotel,
In the village.
4-room hotel, I hope.
Wow.
Oh, God, dig that out.
Yeah.
Dig that out, please.
Pretty cool.
I love that.
I have some original William Graham Sheriff's Department signs too, but they were left
Anything.
on the lawn.
Bring it out.
I think I have that original, it was from years ago, something the town did.
Yes, yep. Well, we'll have another little sign that we'll put there also.
Okay.
Okay.
Great,
Thank
great.
you.
Anything else on that? Great. So the next item is just to, some folks in town have noticed that some of the flags, I went and I counted and did the inventory. So I can tell you there are 6 flags that definitely need replacing, and it's important to do. So we are in the process of obtaining new flags. So we want to do that, of course, in time for Jamaica Old Home Day, but it's for all the veterans. We've got some in the room. It's important to show respect and also just, honor.
Yes,
Yes.
and it's not legal, but a flag can't be flying tattered or torn.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I don't know if they're getting twisted up. Somebody called me
They're torn.
too.
They are torn.
But yeah, there's 3 or 4 up there that
There's
are
actually
frayed,
6.
and they need to be destroyed or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes,
Off the
yes.
American Legion or
Yes.
or
So-
whatever before someone takes it upon themselves to do it.
Right, to climb up there.
I'd be willing to, take them down. but-
Have you know your way around a ladder, Andy? Been there?
Yes, I could. I'd be willing to take them down.
Or I was gonna say the road crew, I don't know.
If they're
yeah,
not, if
whatever.
they're busy, or
Yeah.
they do it with
Will
a
you ask Keith to see if he needs?
backhoe.
With the
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah,
I
well,
can ask him if he's not too
they make
busy.
Dennis get in the boat.
But those should, at least those should be removed.
Yes, agreed,
And I'll get
absolutely.
rid of, I'd be glad to dispose of them.
Yeah,
I
there's a
have 2
way.
flags at my house. that
Okay, and you're
I could
gonna
run
be,
them down to the
okay,
American
perfect, Legion, yeah, I was gonna say you don't throw them in.
No, they're supposed to,
You
I
know,
could burn
right.
them, but I'd rather
Yeah.
let them take care of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I just wanted to update,
So-
folks in the town on that.
Just, one of us will talk to Keith. Want me to ask him?
Sure, yeah, and then you'll
And
know.
if he can, is it all right if I do it?
Of course, but just let Keith know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
rather have him use the bucket, but
right,
it's easier, yeah.
as
Yeah.
soon
No,
as,
that's,
yeah.
and I'm.
I mean, obviously they're busy, but this is, they know, it's important.
I'm
And
leaving.
it shouldn't take too
I'll be
long.
gone for a little while Sunday, starting Sunday, so
Yeah,
I
give
can't do
him,
it before
yeah,
that.
give him a call, if you can
Okay.
give him a call before that, that would be great. If you
Right.
can't, just let either, Greg or
Okay.
I
well,
know,
that's,
so.
yeah.
Just so people know that we're addressing it,
Yes.
and we appreciate, once again, the new flagpole and flag.
Yes, that was volunteer. Thank you, volunteer, whoever you are. All right, thank you on that. So now it's just regular business until
I see
executive.
you skipped one.
I did? Oh, the sheriff's department contract, and I went straight to flags. Thank you, I'm a little.
You wanna read it?
Yes, sure. So we, for those of you who really watch closely, we had actually already approved the sheriff's department contract, but they pointed out to us that there needed to be amendment number 1 to correct the contract as we signed it. This amendment is made as of the 24th, a few days ago. And it reads that the town shall pay to the office the sum of $60,000 for the services provided under this agreement. And the 24008 agrees to pay for services. Payments will be made in 12 equal payments of $5,000 due on or before the 1st of each month. And did you want to read an explanation from the sheriff's department or?
This was just from past business, I don't know if it pertains to.
Oh, that doesn't pertain to this, yeah, this was just a correction, that's.
So this may be after we.
Okay, so I make a resolution to approve the amendment as I've so described it.
Second.
Great.
And then just for discussion, this is really just defining the payment structure, it's not changing the amount.
Yeah, no, nothing, there's
Right,
no
just-
financial change.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's just defining how it.
How it's paid,
Yep,
yes.
okay, just wanted to be clear.
Thank
Let
you,
everybody
sorry,
else be
I should
clear.
have said that, and Andy has some news too.
Okay,
So,
so we vote.
So we can vote, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No further discussion? Roll call vote. Okay, and Andy has an update.
I took it upon myself as the clerk that's been, busy, and I hadn't seen the sheriffs around, and I wondered if I couldn't remember whether we signed this year's contract, so I called them up, and I talked with the accounting gal, Jessica Perrin, and I asked her that question, are we under contract? I knew we were, but, so she just sent an email to Sarah and me, just to clear some things up. The sheriff gave you, the town, a credit for unused patrol hours in fiscal year '23. The credit is for $6,450.75. Your August invoice was overdue, but it got paid, right, Sarah? And it's just some things about billing. Your October invoice, I applied the remainder of the credit, leaving only a balance owed of $3,549.25. Right now, you owe us $8,549.25. And I guess we could ask if that's been paid but we're in good standing with the sheriff's department.
Right, and they waived
Yeah, for hours owed
with the total?
last year. They credited us with that number. I
For like
just-
6,000.
I didn't understand why they didn't take it off the current.
I don't-
Like, that kind of bugged me, but I wasn't gonna say anything, but now we're talking about it.
Right.
It's like, why didn't you just take it off the current? We're going through flooding, like.
She kept explaining it to me and I just said, okay.
Yeah,
And I asked her
And they took it
to,
off, right?
I asked her to CC you,
Yeah,
just so.
yeah, I have it all.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So, and then on that note, last time I talked to the sheriff some time ago, he said once we get into this fiscal year, a couple of months, if we wanted him to come up and answer any questions, or we had any questions, we could schedule.
Probably closer to December, right? Or-
Whatever, would have been by now if all this other thing.
Oh, yeah, that's
happened,
true.
but- So at the request of the board, I could always ask him to come if we wanted him to. Or I haven't seen them around lately, that doesn't mean they haven't been here,
Oh,
but.
that's funny.
You know,
After I
it's just-
haven't, now I have. I haven't
Okay.
seen them, but.
So anyway, if you guys, if the board wants to schedule him sometime, he's more than
What do
willing
you think?
anytime.
We usually do, but I don't have any
I don't-
specifics, but
Yeah.
But if,
he can always zoom in after this. So.
Right, I just feel like we're gonna be pretty busy through
Yeah,
September,
yeah.
so maybe October, you wanna throw out October to them?
if we want them to come, I don't have any questions.
I don't have any at this point.
Right,
Public
I
time,
don't,
but-
I know.
We can have them come anytime.
We can always put it in the back of our brain and save
Right.
it for when we do have a
Yeah.
question.
I agree. All right,
All right,
thank you.
you're welcome.
So the next item of business is timesheets, which we will all go through and sign. I make a motion to approve the timesheets for town office, listers, highway, and transfer station. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sarah. Then I'm gonna have one addition to the pay orders. Sarah has been working very closely with NEMRIC, and they've been both in terms of FEMA, but also just general treasury work, and they came to her with an offer for a bulk rate of hours, because they have been giving her some free time, which is very nice, but this would be 96 hours over the course of a full year, which we have no doubt we are going to consume. And rather than the normal hourly rate of $145, it will be $110 an hour. So I would like to make a resolution that we approve the bulk rate agreement with NEMRIC. NEMRIC, just for those of you in the general office, is the backbone operating system across land records, all functions of the town clerk's office, treasury, as well as financial reporting, so pay orders, payroll, budget against actual, all of that. It all gets handled through NEMRIC and even more than that. And so we're gonna be having some personnel changes and just generally a higher workload. So that is the purpose of that.
And she's been helping with all the bank recs. They hadn't been done since last August.
Oh, bank what?
The
The bank recs, the reconciliation, to
Oh.
make sure everything is
Yes.
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
But they were very behind, and that's one of the things holding up our financials, so we had to get them done. But she's been very good and quick. I mean,
Right.
she's only had them a week and a half.
A
she's
week and a
done
half, and
since
she
last
got-
August done.
Like basically,
Oh, okay.
9 months worth of bank reconciliations. And so they're gonna, I think she's gonna include that time in the, so they're gonna look back at the time that we've been using and add that into this.
Did you make a motion in front of
Did I to approve?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
Second.
So any other discussion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. Awesome. All right, so we can also spend a little more time after quietly with the pay orders, but all those in favor, I make a motion to approve the pay orders. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? If none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, so now time for public concerns. Karen,
I forgot to mention a couple of things about Jamaica Old Home Day.
you looked up your notes, didn't you?
No, I just happened to think of it.
Oh.
One, we are dedicating the day to Bob O'Brien, who has been a select board member, a fireman, many different volunteer options that he and his wife have done throughout the years. He's been on the historical foundation, but he's been invaluable, and so the day is dedicated to Bob.
That is wonderful.
Good choice.
I-
It's a great,
Really,
that's
it's-
my neighbor, he's the best,
Oh,
they're the
that's great,
best
isn't he?
neighbors.
Yeah.
Great,
Really
great-
kind
Great
people.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
talk about having given
Very
his
generous.
time, yeah.
You know, he grew up in a family like that, and
Right.
where everyone was volunteering. His, parents and grandparents were very involved in everything, so it comes naturally to him.
Wonderful, thank you.
And vendors, we still have a few spots for vendors to contact me or Ann Brower. You can get onto the Facebook page or something and contact us. And my other thought is, I wanted to just say that Sarah has really been working hard and doing basically 3 jobs in this
Plus.
office. Plus, I mean, she's there for the listers
She's
and
practically the dog catcher.
oh, well, she is pretty much.
Oh, we don't stick you with that.
So,
But you
but
probably
if
do
there was
it.
one running around, she would go.
She'd be out there catching it.
So I'm wondering about an update on treasurer. and
Sure,
things. So I thought that would be good.
absolutely. So, we have received another resume. The reason we are happy to have another resume is because the individual to whom we had made the offer, after some false starts, finally said to us that she was not available to take the position. So the subcommittee of the select board met today and approved bringing that resume to the full select board. And we will actually have an initial discussion in executive session today. So hopefully at the next meeting, I will have some big news for you.
Okay.
But thank you. Any other public? Yes.
A little small one. I noticed 2 weeks ago when you were discussing the work on South Hill Road, and you were discussing the fact that it's going to be going from the town line to Barbara's house. Yeah, good.
Oh, the paving.
Yeah, the paving.
I was thinking farther south, sorry.
No, the town line from Wardsboro
Yes,
to Barbara's house.
right, that town line.
When I heard it, it struck me that I don't know who you're talking about. Then I read the minutes. The minutes said exactly what you said. My position on that is, after years of having to go through, especially right after Irene,
Right.
old minutes from decades ago,
Right.
we should probably have something more specific than Barbara's house.
Oh, Good point. Let's put in, you know what, let's.
Who's Barbara? I didn't know, so I just wrote what he said, I'm like, Barbara.
Okay, I don't have her 911 number.
But it's-
We'll just, if we put the 911 number,
It's approximately 8/10 of a mile from the town.
We got that part, but we were trying to
no,
figure out.
that was
who it
already, that was actually in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this precise end, we just don't have the 911 address.
Okay.
Even
the
the
key
last
packet.
name would be helpful.
Yes.
I-
No, I agree.
I couldn't even look it up because I didn't know who she was.
Right.
Or I would have.
I think it might actually be in the original RFP that was posted, but still, I mean, I hear
There's
you.
only
The minutes
one.
is really the record.
And that's what, when,
Right.
20 years from now, when somebody goes back to try to figure out what's going on,
Right,
it's gonna
right.
be fuzzy.
How big was that project?
But 8/10 of a mile is gonna be more
8/10
accurate
of a
than
mile,
anybody's.
right, from the town road.
And 911 address would be .8, right?
Yes,
Would be 800.
exactly. It probably is, but I don't know for sure.
Exactly.
I don't know for sure.
In any
Thank you.
case, my suggestion would be that if we're gonna reference somebody in the minutes, that ought to have last names.
Yes,
At
or,
least.
or maybe not the names, but instead the actual.
Or the address would be perfect.
Yes.
Just a thought.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other public concerns? Okay. With that, I am going to make two separate motions. First, I move to find that premature general public knowledge of the individual submitting a resume for the position of town treasurer would clearly place this individual at a substantial disadvantage because the select board would be discussing personally identifiable information in public. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion of that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Second, I move that we I make a motion to move into executive session to discuss this individual, their resume and other personally identifiable information under the provisions of Title I, Section 313, A1A of the Vermont statutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, so thank you everybody for coming. So it is 8:14 and we are coming out of executive session. We did make a decision.
Recording in progress.
Should I start again?
No.
Oh, okay. We did make
Okay.
a decision, as was indicated when we went into executive session. The select board considered a new candidate for treasurer, not new candidate for treasurer, and we have made a decision to offer the candidate, who is Sarah Wiswall, our town clerk and provisional treasurer, the position of treasurer and delinquent tax collector in addition to her current role as town clerk. We as a board will be posting a position for assistant treasurer and assistant town clerk. That will be one person with a dual assistant role, and we will update at the next meeting of the select board, both that posting, which you'll see in the newspapers and on the website to come hopefully in the coming days.
One thing.
Please.
You said we have made the decision, you still
Oh.
have to make the motion.
We
and
should,
then we have to vote.
right. Yes, thank you very much. I resolve to confirm the discussion in executive session to make an offer to Sarah Wiswall as the treasurer and delinquent tax collector of Jamaica. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Great, thank you, Greg, keeping me honest tonight.
I would have.
I don't think it matters, but I accept.
That's a good.
Now that is good news.
Never thought of
My
that.
husband will stop asking me that, did they decide yet?
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I think we are all, now we just need to get this other position filled.
Yes.
And ASAP, yes.
As soon as,
So Andy's gonna take a look at, the job tonight. Greg has already signed off on it with the other than, she'll just change the total number of hours, because I sent you a Word version.
Yep.
And then I don't know if we need, let's just discuss tomorrow where it's gonna be publicized. So for sure, in our newspapers of record, whether we need to go beyond that.
Okay, yeah, just around town because.
Right, and
best-
post it around
Best
town.
case scenario, find someone
And
local, you know.
or close to local.
Yeah.
It is not a requirement that
Right.
you be a Jamaica resident, but if you are, that's not a disqualifier either.
No, I don't live here.
You know what? I'm okay with this.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Okay, great. So it'll be posted on the website tomorrow morning.
You should talk to Derek.
Oh, yes, Derek had one, he wanted to, just, that's what I was mentioning earlier. So, it'll be some point tomorrow, it'll go on the website. Thank you. Yes, I'm, you know, takes a village. So with that, at 8:17, I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.